Welcome back, everyone, to another video of Disney Co. in the Know. This is episode 7, and today we are going to discuss Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, chapter 7. The Great Hall is what we're going to be focusing on today in Hogwarts Castle. We will talk about a Universal Spotlight, Warner Brothers Studio Tour, and more. I am Bruce Beal, owner of 407 and Beyond Vacation Company, and today I am joined by Disney Co. in the Know contributors Steven.
Hey, everyone.
And Jake.
Hello.
And Hannah.
Hey, y'all.
Guys, it is good to have you all back. I am excited to be talking more about Harry Potter and Universal. But before we begin, I want to say that this video is sponsored by 407 and Beyond Vacation Company, Disney and Universal experts who help plan your family's perfect vacation. So all you have to do is show up, have fun, and create family memories. As always, our services are of no cost to you. Visit us on the web at www.407vacations.com. And to stay in the know, visit our blog page at www.407vacations.com/in-the-know. All right, guys. Now that we have those formalities out of the way, let's get to our 60-second recap of Chapter 7 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So let me get the timer set up here. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm just kidding, guys. I got it up here. Give me one moment. All right. Does everyone see the timer?
Yes.
We're good to go. All right. Jake, the 60-second recap has fallen to you this week. So good luck. Give us lots of details, and let's begin. In 3, 2, 1.
All right. So the students are greeted by Professor McGonagall. She takes them to the chamber to await the sorting. She explains the process to them briefly. While they're there, they meet all the ghosts flying in. Then they go into the hall. The sorting hat sings its song to describe the sorting process. Then they are sorted in alphabetical order. We see Hermione goes to Gryffindor, Neville goes to Gryffindor, Malfoy into Slytherin, then Harry and Ron both go into Gryffindor, and Harry has his little discussion with the hat about Gryffindor, Slytherin, which one he's going to be in, but it ends up being Gryffindor. Then Dumbledore speaks a few words before the feast. He says, nitwit, blubber, oddment, and tweak. Then they have the feast. They meet nearly headless Nick.
10 seconds!
We see Snape. Harry's scar hurts. Dumbledore tells him the rules. The quarter is out of bounds. The sorting hat.
2.
Sing the school song.
1. Jake, good attempt at recapping this story, or excuse me, the chapter in 60 seconds. Steven, Hannah, what do you have to add to Jake's really well done recap?
Jake, you covered quite a bit. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Nothing really stands out to me that, like...
I would just say near the end of the chapter, after the Fred and George Weasley finally finished the house song, on their way back to the tower, they run into Peeves, and then going in and laying down into bed, the chapter kind of ends with Harry having a bit of a nightmare with Malfoy and Snape and high-pitched laugh and a green light. But other than that, those are the last couple pages of the chapter. There's a lot that you covered there, Jake.
Go ahead, Jake.
I can't express how disappointed I am that I didn't get to sing the song. I really wanted to fit that in there. I think I could have probably got it in if I had another 15 seconds or so.
Okay, guys. Well, you guys heard it from Jake himself. If he had an additional 15 seconds, he'd sing the song. So let me put 15 seconds back on the timer. Jake, are you ready to go?
Let's go.
All right. Let me put 15 seconds on the timer. Give me just 1 second here.
No, I know I'm not a good singer, so I'm just gonna sing this fast.
Okay, I'll tell you what. 20 seconds.
Here's the question: what tune are you gonna use? Are you gonna, because everyone sings it at their own tune, right? That's part of the song.
It'll probably be closest to the deleted scene from the 4th movie, just because that's how I think of it in my head.
All right, Jake. I got 20 seconds on the timer. You're gonna sing the Hogwarts song, the anthem. That was not included in the movies. So this is also a deleted scene. All right, we're making our own deleted scene here. So Jake, 3, 2, 1.
Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy Hogwarts, teach us something, please. Whether we be old and bald or young with scabby knees, our heads could do with filling with some interesting stuff, for now they're bare and full of air, dead flies, and bits of fluff. So teach us things worth knowing, bring back what we forgot. We'll do our best, just do the rest, and learn until our brains are rot.
All right, 3 seconds remaining. That was good. And Jake, you can carry a tune. Let me turn this timer off.
That was impressive.
Yeah, good work. I'm glad that fell to you, not me.
I don't know about the actual singing, but at least I think I got all the words and stuff. So.
You did. All right. So one thing I want to mention about this chapter is this is, the first time us as readers and also the students, the first years, are seeing Hogwarts Castle. And you can arrive. Jake, talk about the 2 ways you can arrive to Hogwarts. So one is by boat, and the other is
by the carriages that are pulled by the thestrals, which most of the students can't see, of course, because they are invisible to anyone who has not witnessed death.
Right. And so you can either go by boat or thestral, and this is the first time that first years are seeing the castle. So for our Universal Spotlight this week, I want to discuss what it was like for you guys to see Hogwarts Castle for the first time at Universal Orlando. This is definitely one of the best icons or places in a theme park in Orlando. And, I still remember the first time that I saw Hogwarts Castle over there at the Wizarding World. And it is, it's to scale, it sits up high. And they did that forced perspective, but it looks like, they have the Great Hall and the towers. And it's the queue and the attraction of Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. So I want to talk a little bit in this spotlight about your guys' experience seeing this building in the theme park. And so Hannah, let's start with you on what you think of Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey as more of an icon in the outside facade.
It's just such a magical moment walking, up and seeing it. And I think one of the cool things is you can kind of see it from like further away too, because it is set up high and you're like heading back towards it and there's the castle. And it's just, I feel like you're filled with the sense of awe and wonder that the first years have as they pull up in the boats and it's up there and you're realizing like, I finally made it to Hogwarts. Like I'm here and this is like, it feels real. It feels like you're actually going. They do such a good job. It looks just like it's pictured, just like it's described. They did a phenomenal job with it. And walking up to it, I will never forget that moment because you feel like you've stepped into the books. And for someone who's such a huge fan, like nothing can beat that.
That is so true. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, similar kind of experience. You're going up to the castle and it's up there. It's like you feel like a student. You're walking up to Hogwarts. It really is magical. One of the cool things I thought was, like, obviously it's not a full-sized castle, right? But it really looks like it up until you're right there. Like from any kind of distance, it looks like it's a whole castle sitting up there, and you can see it and everything. It's just so cool.
Yeah. Steven, what about you? Talk a little bit about the photo opportunity there on the bridge as you enter Hogsmeade.
Sure. So coming from, I think, the entrance more near the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park entrance, you have that bridge going over the water that really puts you right up close and personal in front of the castle. And that's where you often see people stop along the bridge and take photos. And really it's that kind of iconic scene with the castle in the background. One of the things that I really appreciate, if you come in from the other entrance, getting off the Hogwarts Express, is really how the park builds up to seeing the castle. Because once you get off the Express, you have Hagrid's right on the right. You have some of the shops that you walk through. But then the park kind of leads up to the end, which is the castle, before you go into maybe the Jurassic World. So it's just kind of all this build up in the Harry Potter world. And then when you finish, you have this grand view of the castle. Then you ride the ride and you come back down and see the rest of the park again. But it's just amazing how the park really kind of builds up to that photographic moment.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with that. And the just going back real quick about the photo opportunity on the bridge, that is such a well built perspective of the castle from Hogsmeade in that bridge, and so many people and families stop there and take their family photos together. And that Hogwarts means so much to so many people, and so many people wish that they could go to school there, and being able to see this in real life in this perspective is really special, and is the highlight of a lot of our clients' family vacations over at Universal Orlando. So is there anything else that you guys want to add about seeing the castle, seeing Hogwarts in the Wizarding World?
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes it also feel so real is that a lot of the staff members are dressed like wizards and students, and so you feel like you've stepped into the group of students. And in the chapter that we read today, Harry's like out with all the other first years, and all of like the upper class students are there. And I feel like you kind of get to share that, like seeing all of the employees dressed in their robes. You feel like you're a first year student arriving at Hogwarts, and here's all these people who can show you the ropes and know what's happening, because they do that in the park. But I think the fact that they're dressed to fit the castle as well is really cool.
Yeah, and I think this is such an iconic moment for Harry Potter fans. Just to compare it, I mean, this is pretty much being at Magic Kingdom from a Disney perspective in front of the castle, or for Star Wars fans being able to walk up to the Millennium Falcon, or even pilot the Millennium Falcon over there at Disney World. So this is as big as it gets. Gringotts and some of those other areas are fun to take pictures in front of, but this is the iconic scene.
That's a really good point about bringing in and comparing it over to Galaxy's Edge at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and what that means for Star Wars fans. This is definitely that moment for Harry Potter fans. And so I think even with all the things going on at the Wizarding World at Universal Orlando, that Hogwarts Castle and being over there and being able to take your photo in front of it is probably the most iconic thing that you can do while you are there. So does anyone have anything else they want to mention about Hogwarts Castle? All right. So let's talk a little bit about, very briefly, the Great Hall. So much of Chapter 7 takes place in the Great Hall as students are being sorted. And I want to discuss the Great Hall in the Warner Brothers studio tour over in London, England. So the tour at the Warner Brothers studio, really kind of starts off with the Great Hall. And so you kind of get that sense of, oh my gosh, I'm here, I'm doing it, I've come to Hogwarts. And when you first begin your tour, you are seated in a theater with a screen, and an employee comes up and they're talking to you, and there's a short movie that those who are going on the tour watch. And then all of a sudden, the door screen moves or disappears, and you see these two big, magnificent doors, and they open up the doors, and your tour begins, and it begins in the Great Hall. And when I was there, they had it all dressed up for the Yule Ball. So they had all the food, all the Christmas trees, the wreaths, the table up front with all the band members' outfits. And being at the Great Hall in real life is just, it's unbelievable. And it's kind of that iconic moment, like I've arrived at Hogwarts. And to see all the tables and where the headmaster and professors sit it is so cool. But one thing I do want to mention about the Great Hall as a filming location is, obviously we know that there's no ceiling because it is a studio and they had CGI'd candles. But what I learned on the tour was, for the Sorcerer's Stone, they did try lighting and having real candles above all of the actors. But because the candles were dripping, they decided to go to all CGI. So, and not in a disappointing way at all, but you'd be surprised how much smaller the Great Hall is in real life, compared to what you have built it up in your mind, watching the movies and everything else. So I was really surprised that they could fit 4 long tables in there. and film it, but it is definitely worth it. So if you have the opportunity to go to Warner Brothers Studio Tour to see the Great Hall, and to obviously see the rest of everything that place has to offer, I would so highly suggest it. So do you guys have any questions? You want to add anything to that?
I think it's interesting you mentioned about how small it seems. I think that's something you can almost notice in the movies as they get older. Like when they're little kids in there, it seems a lot bigger, but by the end, when they're like full-grown adults, you're like, it doesn't look nearly as big as it used to. Like those 4 tables all look pretty close. So I think you can tell a little bit, but that's really interesting to hear from actually going there.
I loved your story about the candles, and that totally makes sense why they had to CGI them. Did they talk about like that at all, like with the ceiling? Because in the movies, or in the movies and the books, the ceiling is enchanted to match the weather outside. So like in the studio tour, did they talk about like how they did that, or did they just say that it was the computer generation and kind of move on?
Yeah, that's a good question. From what I recall, which doesn't mean that it wasn't mentioned by any of the tour guides in the Great Hall, they had just mentioned about how they had to, use CGI instead of real candles. Obviously, to project the weather and the stormy skies, but also the candles. So, but I don't recall any other bits of information regarding the ceiling. So. But it is a great way to start the tour, because what better entrance is there than the 2 big front doors going into the Great Hall? So any other things that you guys want to ask for our viewers or listeners before we move on? All right, let's do a would you rather. So Stephen, do you have a question to pose for us this week, or Jake?
Yeah, so really easy one for, well, not easy to answer, but easy one to come up with for this chapter. We have the sorting ceremony. Everyone gets sorted into their houses. I know we all have taken different tests and gotten our own houses and stuff, but like if it's up to you to pick a house, which one's your favorite?
That's good. Stephen, let's start with you.
Well, I would have to go with Slytherin. Just like the hat mentions, being able to use any type of means to achieve your ends just kind of sounds like a very competitive nature. Finding winning is an important thing in life, and really kind of giving your all and being very cunning. And that sounds very appealing to me. So that's one kind of aspect I like about it. Be interesting to see their dorm rooms in the dungeons area, and then of course the best character in the book, Snape, leads your house. So I think I'd have to pick Slytherin.
Very good. Hannah, what about you? Which house would you want to choose?
I've got to go with the house that I actually am, and that's a Hufflepuff. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Hufflepuffs are leftovers, Hufflepuffs are the worst, whatever. I would disagree with that, because I feel like Hufflepuffs are built on kindness and loyalty and trust, and like those are, to me, really important things just in like the hallmark of any, friendship, relationship, just being a person, and relying on others. And you never get to see, like Harry never visits the Hufflepuff common room. He never goes in. So you never get to see that described or hear that in any of the, the movies, the books, whatever. So I think it would be really cool to get to go there. For people who were on Pottermore, back before it switched to the wide Wizarding World, J.K. Rowling, once you got sorted into Hufflepuff, had this whole letter and explained had pictures and descriptions, and it was just so cool. And it just seems like such a warm and welcoming place and very friendly, and that's where I would be 100%.
Hannah, I would say that your sorting into Hufflepuff has never been more accurate. So, of all of us, you're definitely the most caring, and you're certainly nice. So I will just say that the Sorting Hat knows exactly what he's doing. So, Jake, which house would you select to be chosen to?
All right. So on different tests I've taken, I bounced back and forth at times between Gryffindor and Ravenclaw. But if it's up to me, I would choose a Gryffindor. I really like the ideals of courage and bravery that it embodies. I feel like those are really important things for life. You can't like back down. You can't be scared. When you are scared, you gotta push through. And I know it's like the generic hero house, like it's kind of the boring choice, but I like it. I think that would be where I would want to be.
So Jake, I will say that I feel you on, it feels a little bit too cliche to pick Gryffindor, but I was sort of into Gryffindor as well. And I do think that would be the house that I would choose to be sorted into. And I won't reiterate everything that you said, but I do like the characteristics of those in Gryffindor. So I do want to say, though, that our other contributor and social media manager, Elizabeth, she is a Ravenclaw. And I know for sure that she would pick Ravenclaw. So the team has somebody in every house. So
something I think is really interesting that we see in this chapter is Harry talking to the house and saying, like, not Slytherin, I don't want to be in Slytherin. And the Sorting Hat, not the house. And the Sorting Hat listens to him and puts him where he wants to be. And I think that something that's really interesting is we would all be in the houses that we were sorted into. And so I feel like it kind of captures that, like, that we all embody the qualities, but also value them, and that the Sorting Hat would take that into account, which I think is pretty cool. So.
Yeah, Stephen.
On that note, I think it's important that the hat recognizes greatness in Harry, and he equates that he should be in Slytherin because of that. So I just want to throw that out there.
Stephen, you said that you would choose Slytherin. Remind me, is that where you were sorted at Partamore?
Yes, yeah, that's what I tested into.
Okay, so we all chose the houses in which we are sorted. So I'm glad we're all satisfied with where we are. So really quickly, in a sentence or two, everyone give me your favorite character from this chapter. I'll start with Stephen.
Mine's got to be Dumbledore. I liked his opening remarks to the school year, and I love that he allowed Fred and George to sing the song at their own pace to a funeral march. I thought that was hilarious.
Very good. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, it's the same for me. I mean, Dumbledore is my favorite character from the series. I feel like I've probably mentioned that before on these podcasts, but this is the first time we see him from Harry's perspective. Of course, we saw him in chapter 1. But we really see that like whimsical side of him with the whole nitwit blubber augment tweak thing, and I just think it's a really good way to introduce him to our main cast of characters.
Hannah.
I'm going to say Fred and George. You get to see more of their antics as Ron talks about this big test and fighting a troll, and that's not at all what they have to do. And I love just the humor that they add, and them singing the song as a funeral march is just on par for them. I love the two of them, so definitely my favorites.
Yeah, those are all good, but I have to give my favorite character of this chapter to Hagrid, just because. No, I'm joking. Mine is Dumbledore. He's actually, spoiler alert, my favorite character in the entire series, but all for the same reasons that Stephen and Jake said. So let's end on our divination segment. And Stephen, what do you have for us to look forward to in later chapters, later books coming up?
All right, so just kind of one quick thing to keep in mind for the future is this is kind of our introduction to Snape. And the way that we see him is that when Harry's looking up at the table and looking at Quirrell, he does see Snape and kind of makes eye contact. And at that point, Harry's scar starts to burn and starts to hurt. And then later on that night, he has a nightmare involving Malfoy and Snape and a high-pitched laugh and a green light. So we kind of get this feeling, this ominous feeling that Snape's somehow equated with the dark side and kind of associated with this high-pitched laugh and green light, which we know is the murder of Harry's parents. So moving forward, we kind of have this dark mysteriousness about Snape moving forward, and that kind of comes into play when he gets accused of trying to steal the stone. So that's something to look forward to moving forward.
All right. Thanks, Stephen. So guys, is there anything that you want to add about this chapter? Anything universal related before we close up? No? We're good? Okay. All right. Well, very well. Well, Stephen, Jake, Hannah, thanks for a good episode and thanks for joining. I will remind our viewers and listeners to follow us on Facebook at 407 and Beyond Vacation Company and join in on the discussion on our Facebook group, Disney Co. in the Know. And to stay in the know, follow our blog and watch more podcasts at www.407vacations.com/in the know. So guys, until chapter 8 and episode 8, take care and I'll see you next time. Bye.